Hey everybody, welcome to the Forhermusings podcast, where we make unique stories exist. I am your host, Funmi Olagunju, and my muse, my guest today is, well, I don't even know where to start. He is a director, he is an editor, a photographer. We've had the opportunity, well, I have had the opportunity and the grace to work with him. And I'm proud to present Rojal Myers.
Hello,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Can't complain to be honest.
I love it. Look at us pretending like we just didn't say hello to each other 2 minutes ago. We're doing
Content,
we're,
man.
we're podcasting. We're podcasting. Firstly, yeah, how's your day been so far?
Yeah, it's been alright. It's cold, so I'm just trying to figure stuff out. Just setting up some stuff to shoot tomorrow. But yeah, excited to be part of this. How's your day been?
It's been good. I've been podcasting, I've been interviewing some interesting people, you being one of them.
Nice,
So it's been quite busy trying to organize everything, but I'm happy to be here, not
amazing.
outside in this treacherous, windy weather. But we move. So, I mean, yeah, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast, was because I think your story is so interesting, and obviously, like, it's always nice to meet someone in person, and connect and kind of understand what they're about.
Mm.
And that's why I wanted you on here. So I think it would be really nice for you to kind of tell us a bit about your background, sort of like in as a photographer, as a director, like how did you get your first start?
Um, it's over a decade now, actually. So I got receipt. My sister bought me my first camera. It was this Fujifilm like zoom camera. I can't remember what it was called, but like that was my first camera. And she bought it with the aim for me to take photos of her when we went on holiday and stuff. But after a while, I was like, I actually had a knack for it. But photography wasn't something I was just like always into. I was always into like design and like art and fine art and graphic design. So I always just had photography and video as something that was just on the side as well as my design. So as years went on, I focused more and more onto graphic design, and I just used like photo and video as something to help aid my design. So I did that for a few years, went to uni, studied graphic design, but I was always using photo and video throughout everything. And it kind of got to the point it was like, why don't I just do film studies as my degree? So before I even graduated in my final year, I received a job offer, um, which meant I had to stay in Cardiff for another 6 months, which I think set me up for life, to be honest. Just how to navigate the industry, where to work, and what projects that I want to do. So it was really nice to be part of that company for those 6 months to really just get my foot in the door. And then from there, I moved back to London. I was freelancing, doing video work, photography and design, and just like changing where it needs to be. And I was just doing that for a few years until I went into pharma, and I was doing video editing and graphic design and all of that. And after a while, I just had enough because I realized my true passion was film and TV. I just didn't know how to get into it. And eventually, once I did get my first gig indirectly in film and TV, I haven't looked back since. So I've been doing that for the past 2 years now, just working directly in film and TV and just working with some talented, incredible people.
That is an amazing story that you just shared. And also shout out to your sister for like giving you a camera because
it all
if it wasn't for her.
it all started with her selfishness, and I think in a way, I think it worked out. It's crazy because like I think photography was something that was known in the family like back in the day. It's like if you had a film camera, you capture those moments to remember those moments. But like when I look back on it, and I was like, okay, we were really like into photography. Like there's like folders and folders of film. like my mum that makes cake, so every time she baked a cake and decorated it, she will take a photo. So it's like documenting has been a part of the family for a long time. It's just I'm just now doing it in a way that I can be paid doing it. So yeah, it's
Mm.
really nice.
Mm. Also, like, let's talk about your style. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does anyone really have a style? But let's talk about like, because I've noticed you use a lot of spoken word in your films that you've made.
Yeah.
Like why spoken word? Why do you feel like it adds a certain edge to your work that you over, let's say, just normal dialogue, like say a normal short film or full-length film?
It's therapy to be honest. I think everything in life ties together. So when I was at uni, I like had depression and it was very severe.
Mm-hmm.
And my therapist, it was long because I was like in therapy like every week for like 2 years. And she kept telling me to write stuff down. And I was so reluctant to because it was just like I didn't know how to write down my emotions. And like for me as a guy, it's kind of hard to express your emotions and stuff. And like I
Mm.
didn't see how writing would help me do that. So when when it got to the time when George Floyd died, I just had this burning passion in me. Like I knew I couldn't go out and protest because it was during COVID and my parents are at that age where I couldn't risk it. So I
Mm.
was like,
Mm.
what else could I actually do to actually express how I was feeling? And I just picked up a diary and just started writing, and that birthed my first film. And just it was just me expressing how I was feeling, my emotions, and just being a black person within the UK. So from then, I've just always used writing as a way to express myself and a way of a form of therapy, essentially, to just to express myself, and then just like mixing that with visuals that just echo what I'm saying. I think helps me understand myself and just gives something to other people that they can relate to as well. So that's something that I've been really trying to incorporate for a long time now, just to make sure that in a way it stimulates myself, but it also gives something to other people to know that you're not alone in like any of all of this.
I love that. I love that. And especially the film I believe you're talking about is called Why,
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
And I love the messaging, why can't we be a United Kingdom? Um, do you feel like um an ethnic minority living in London? I want to say London specifically, because obviously London is very multi cultural, but do
Yeah.
you feel like a an ethnic minority?
I do. There's certain parts of London, but you definitely feel that. And I think where I'm from Hackney, so like it's been predominantly like a multicultural area. But like since gentrification's come through, I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to feel more and more like a minority. Like there's a park called London Field where people fed walking through that park. And now it's like I'm being looked at like I don't deserve to be here. And it's really interesting to see that change in an area where the locals are now being treated like second class citizens. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's really interesting to see that diversity is just really changing. I'm all for change, but I think change does come at a cost, and I think local people are starting to feel that, and especially ethnic minorities. It's like people want the culture, but not the people that create it, and it's really hard to navigate through that. Um, So yeah, I'm starting to feel like that more and more recently. But just in the UK in general, like it's scary how there's a lack of diversity once you leave like a big city. It's
Mm.
really scary. I felt that when I went to Cardiff. Like it was like a nasty culture shock to realize like, wow, okay, not everywhere is diverse as like Hackney or London in general. So
Mm.
yeah,
And obviously with with that diversity is a community and sort of sense of welcoming. Like when you were in Wales for a chunk of time, did you, even though it wasn't as diverse, Did you feel welcome?
I felt welcomed, but I think people's perceptions of like black people and people of color is based off the media.
Mm-hmm.
So when I wasn't what was being portrayed in the media, it was
Hmm.
just like, oh, why aren't you like what I see on the TV? Why are you not like this? Blah blah blah. And it was just like hard because you had to like break that narrative all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
which was a bit of a struggle. But in my third year of uni, it was crazy. Like how accommodation did it, right? Was essentially they put all the white people into like one building in the other buildings, and then it was just one building of like ethnic minorities and a few white people. At first, I was like, "That's crazy," but I was like, "That was the happiest I was being in a flat."
Oh,
Yeah,
with
I
just
was.
black people. Hey.
Yeah, it was literally like black. I was the only black person, but there was a Malaysian guy,
Mm-hmm.
there was a French guy, a Swedish guy, a guy from Peru, and someone from India. So it was like, okay, I don't need to explain why I'm doing certain things. They just get it.
Mm.
We cook with seasoning. There's little things that
Woo!
it was just little things like that where it was just like, yeah, I'm at home again, and I just felt myself, and I didn't have to worry about how other people were seeing me because they just understood it as well. So it was really nice to know that that final year I felt a sense of being at home again.
Mm. Let's talk a little bit about that as well, like
Yeah.
segregation in
Yeah,
what?
it was mad. It was mad. I never realized it until I went onto other floors, and it was like I went to other buildings and it was just all white, predominantly white people. And then I checked my building and it was always just like Asian, like from like East Asia, like China, Japan, those countries, and then you just had your ethnic minorities and just all in just one building. And I was like, this is a bit odd, but then
Very odd.
at the same time, I was like, I could understand why you would do it. I personally wouldn't have been as bold in doing such things, but
Mm-hmm.
I think in a way it kind of helped people create that sense of community.
Mm.
So for me as well, I think when I was there, I think racism was so unconscious that there hasn't been a different voice to say no, what you're saying is wrong, or
Yeah.
this could be perceived as wrong. So they might have not meant bad by it, but from a different perspective and a different person, you're like,
Mm.
okay, that's very questionable.
Mm.
So it's not me defending them, but it's me understanding that there hasn't been a different voice there to actually tell them, hey, this is a bit wrong.
Yeah, yeah. It's that nuance, isn't it? Because, when you mentioned it, I was just like, what in the antebellum South is going on in
Yeah,
Cardiff?
it's
Um,
crazy, but I understand it.
yeah, yeah. And of course, we have to acknowledge that we're all different. Everybody has differences, communities have differences. We have to have a time where maybe, we are able to kind of stay in that community, hone that community, build that community. And then it's also a time where we all come together. I
Mm,
think that's probably, you know, and I don't want to be political here, but maybe that's the problem with the world is that we're not recognizing that we're all different. There's a time for everything, basically.
exactly that.
Um, let's talk a little bit about your film that because I'm asking everyone to bring a film to the For Her Musings table. So, what film did you choose?
I chose Matilda from 1996. Um,
Ooh,
I love that film so
but
much.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Can you tell us why? Tell us why.
I think with Matilda, I think I see a lot of myself within Matilda and her story. It's like
You got superpowers, Rojal?
not, I mean, I create good work. I give myself that. But I think for me, I think she wasn't really accepted by people. But
Yes.
for her, it was directly her family, and she was seen as the odd one out. And for me, I've always been seen differently. Like for my size,
Mm, mm.
Like I'm always like, you think because of my size, oh, he's a road man, he's this and that. It's like I want no
Really?
part of that. Yeah, and it's like I want no part of that, and just little things like that where I've been always constantly breaking that stereotype. And I think with Matilda, she recognized that she was different. She accepted it, but there was also that underlying feeling of just wanting to be a part of something. Why she was
Mm.
so desperate to go to school. And when she did get to school, she found her friends, and then there was like Miss Honey, and it's like
Yes. Oh, Miss
they're,
Honey.
they're exactly their relationship is like Miss Honey. Matilda is Miss Honey's inner child that she wants to
Oh my God, I could
cure.
cry right now.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
they understand each other so well because she knows what it's like to be hated by her own family, and it's just like she's been able to support her. And basically, Miss Honey's the adult version of Matilda. Matilda is Miss Honey, like fulfilling her inner child. So yeah, that story of just like being together and just like having a new relationship and being able to be adopted and to find that happiness that she was yearning for and that acceptance was just, yeah, I think it's such a beautiful story.
I I have to say, like, what you said really resonates with me because that's exactly how I feel. Like, even when I revisited it, and I watched it and I thought, wow, this film is so special because it makes you, as you said, this idea of being, an inner child and kind of Miss Honey seeing that in Matilda. I watching that too, I saw it, I kind of saw like my inner child. I was just smiling from the very beginning of the film. I was smiling. I was like, well, I haven't smiled like, well, I mean, I've smiled, but I haven't smiled about a film and a story like this in a long time, especially when I've seen it before, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's so special about film as well because it's like a reference point. Whenever you feel a certain way, you always go back to a certain film. And Matilda, I mean, you can say what you want, about even like Lion King or something. It's an animation, it's for kids. I think we're all kids. We're all
Yeah, exactly.
big kids. Like I want a time machine. I want to go back.
I think as well as we grow up, all we ever try to do is heal our inner child.
Yes.
And I think we're
Mm,
always trying to break barriers that our parents brought onto us. It's like, for me personally, I was like, I know my parents went through a lot, so they're
mm.
still stuck in their ways in some sense, but they mean well is because they just didn't have that love from their parents that they needed to be all right. So it's just like you're understanding of like your parents, but you're like, I don't want to pass on half of these things onto the like my kids or my nieces and my nephews.
Yeah.
So I think as we
Yeah.
grow, we do our best to fulfill our inner child. If it means buying that massive Legos toy or whatever,
Yes.
just those
Mm,
little things, we're just
yeah.
healing our inner child. So
Mm,
I think that's why that film resonates with me so much because Miss Honey recognized that she needed to be there for Matilda
mm.
and be able to like give her the books and the resources she needs to elevate and improve in life. So yeah, that's why that film really resonates with me.
I love that. I love that. I love this idea of like being aware, like this awareness of your inner child because Matilda, she's so young and she's already aware of who she is. Like she's different. Miss Honey, maybe it took her a little bit longer. Maybe it took her to meet Matilda to be aware, like, oh, actually, I still got some wounds to heal.
Exactly.
Now, Miss Trunchbull.
Yeah, I think she's society. I think that for me, I see Miss Transport as society. It's just like you can't be more than what I tell you you can be,
Yes.
and if you don't abide by it, you're in trouble. And I think that's a thing. That's a lot for a lot of people right now as well. It's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
it was similar to my other film that I did, and it was just like when people want you to do things for them, they'll they'll cast doubt in your mind. They'll manipulate you. They'll do everything they can to make
Yes.
sure
Mm.
that they are in control and they dictate what you do. And I think with Miss Trunchbull, it was just like it has to be done her way or it's the wrong way. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people in society in general are like that, where they can't see a different solution than their own. So I think that her character was so necessary in the story as well. Just hard hitting, menacing principle that just doesn't like joy. Um,
Yeah.
is like how a lot of people want to see society wants to see us, especially one thing I've noticed as well actually is the difference between when you do something for yourself versus when you're doing it for other people. There's like loads of praise and congratulations when it's you're doing a job for someone else versus when you're doing it yourself. Because we're
Mm.
so constricted to being, oh, we have to work for someone else in order to be successful, and no one likes to see you do things really well by yourself because you've just done it by yourself.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting to see like the dynamics between that, and that you kind of see that with Miss Trunchbull as well, like the scene where um the kid eats all the cake and like he's being cheered on, and like she just deprived everyone of that joy.
Mm.
So it's just little things like that. It just makes that
Mm.
so special.
Yeah, yeah. There's also this like element of like who's your support system and like who is like most children you have like an imaginary friend. I don't think I had an imaginary friend. I think nah. Did you have an imaginary friend?
I don't think I did, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever, coming from a religious background, I don't think it would be welcomed to have an imaginary friend. It would be like a sin or something. But we work through it. We're working on it. We're working on it. Um, what did I want to ask? What did I want to ask? Oh, I guess I wanted to say like my take from watching Matilda. Like my favorite scene is the chalkboard scene. Agatha, this is Magnus. Leave my little bumble. That makes me laugh till this day. Like I was cracking up when I watched it recently. I was like,
And the
wow.
kids like echoing what she was saying as well,
Yeah.
just adds to the trauma. And in a way it kind of does show that that she has in the chat things that needs to be sorted out as well.
You mean Miss Trunchbull?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
because it's
yeah.
just like how is she letting something like that fear her
Mm,
as much as well. So it's just little
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I mean, what was her backstory? Just a little bit. Like, she is she like an ex-Olympic athlete? Like, is she a
She was,
disgraced
yeah. I think she
ex-Olympic
was.
athlete?
And they her Magnus was her brother, and she kicked, and once they moved out she just took over the house,
Mm,
um from what I remember.
wow, wow. I mean, I love this idea that even though you have to, as a creative, a lot of the time you're by yourself, right?
Yeah,
Doing your own work. Oftentimes you get supporters, oftentimes like no one believes you, or sorry, believes in you.
yeah,
But again, back to this awareness of like you can still you can still make it and you can kind of make your fantasy your reality because Matilda, all she didn't have her parents because they were useless. She had her books, she had all these stories. She had the library, okay, that big library. And that was where she kind of found herself. And yes, the journey was lonely, but then she found Miss Honey and eventually she was able to kind of make that fantasy a reality. Like how does it feel for you when you meet people who you are kind of like-minded and you connect with like how does that feel?
it feels amazing, to be honest. I think in our 20s as well it's pretty hard to make new friends as well and just meet
Whew.
new people. It's I've seen it's pretty brutal, especially when you know that certain things aren't for you anymore. For me, I've never been much of a drinker. So me going to the clubs and going to like events in those spaces just makes no sense. So the only place I can truly find friends and new people that are like-minded is like either working on set or picking up a hobby. So when I do find those people, you kind of cherish it more because you know that they know they've been through similar experiences and they understand. it as well.
Yeah.
Um, I was fortunate enough to make some new friends and new people last year working on set, and I was like, I trust these people with my life now more than some people that I've known for years because
Mm.
I think as human beings we evolve and we change, and our mindset and how we view life always changes as we grow. So it's like the phase that I'm in now, meeting those types of people is so beneficial and very helpful to know that I'm not doing it by myself and to know that
Yeah.
I can elevate and move on with these types of people. So it feels amazing when you do actually meet those people, and it kind of, in a way, tells you what you've been missing as well in your life as well. Like,
Yeah.
you need to have some friends that are for this thing and some people for that thing. You can't just rely on the same people for everything, and it's something that I've really noticed. There's some friends that I'll never bring to my house, whereas there's some friends that
Interesting.
I know that if they say, yo, I'm around the corner, I know that they can come through, and my parents and whoever won't have a problem because they know them. So it's just like different friends for different things. So yeah, it's really nice to know that I can just the experience, just like-minded people, is amazing.
I love that. I love that. And, obviously, this season of the podcast is all about new beginnings. So, whether it's, Matilda discovering her love of books and kinship, friendship in Miss Honey, or whether it's starting a new project, meeting new people, making new friends. But let's also talk about your film, your recently produced, directed, manifested film, Who You Loyal To, which I was lucky to be featured in. Tell me like about that, how it started, because I know you felt a bit frustrated last year and you made a Twitter
Yeah.
post and it went viral and everybody was like, "Oh, what's this? What's this?"
Yeah. Last year I fell out of love with creativity. And it was the nastiest experience that I've ever had because I think it's just been me and creativity since I was 16. And to be not to know that people had pushed me to the point of like pushed me to breaking point really like really destroyed me.
Mm,
And I was working so much and people weren't paying invoices, or they were reluctant to pay me or pay me what I'm worth or any of that. And it was just like it was very discouraging. It's like there was like an expectancy to use my own money to aid their stuff, and like for asking for me to try reciprocate the feeling. It was like I had to beg people to do it. And I was doing that for a lot of people, and I was in like loads of like really crap situations where I wasn't being treated the way that I deserved to be treated. And again, I just had to take a break. I was burnt out. I was depressed. I was just, yeah, I was pretty lost for a while. And I learned that I had to separate the creativity and myself. So once I had figured that out to an extent, I went back to working. And I think people doubled down on their stupidity and their disrespect. And I was like, I can't get myself back into that state of depression or anything like that. So that's when I decided to actually write how I was feeling. And there was this one week where every job that I had cancelled the night before, on the day, or just didn't tell me at all. So I would get to the place and they were like, oh, yeah, it's been cancelled. And it was just like, it was so frustrating. So in those 5 days, I wrote the script that came out, and I was just like, yeah, I'm like, I've had enough. And it was just like, who am I? Who am I actually loyal to? Why am I letting people manipulate you? Why am I letting people do this to me? Why am I doing all these stuff? Like, why am I letting money dictate the stuff that I work on? So that film was just something that was so pure and so truthful and so real for me. It was like it's connected to me, and it was in a way telling me to know that the practices that I have now aren't working, and I shouldn't allow people to just come and dictate who I am as a person, as a creative, because it's like I've done all the training and I know that some of the stuff that is going wrong is wrong, but I still allowed it because of the fear of missing out on working with a client or stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
Mm.
once I realized that losing them as a client is probably the best thing for me, since I think since the start of the year, I've worked with better people. I've got a better job now. My invoices get paid like almost instantly. And I'm in a lot happier and better position than I was 7 months ago. So that was the whole premise of like writing the film, and then I just wanted to create a film where it's such a deep message, but it had some happy undertones to it. To know that you can be loyal to your stuff, but still be able to do the stuff that you want to do. Even if there's times when you have to do the jobs you don't want to do, you know that you can bring it back home to you as a person. So yeah, that was the main premise of the film, really.
I love that. I love that because as a creative myself, I totally relate to this idea of kind of knowing when to stand your ground and
Yeah,
like what you just won't take anymore. And this misconception that when you're a creative person, you're always working and you're always making money and blah blah blah. But the reality is sometimes that's not the truth. You're just trying to build your portfolio or just trying to network or whatever. Um, and I can also attest to the fact that when I first started, I was like, I'm gonna get paid this amount of money and I'm gonna do this. But it's like, no, you do have to, like, I agree with what you're saying. You do have to, know when to stand your ground. But at the same time, there's opportunities and you have to define what an opportunity is for you, right?
exactly,
If this is just for your portfolio to build that up, then you recognize that if they're taking advantage of you a little bit, then maybe that's not the right opportunity for you, and someone else will take it, right? And then
exactly,
you just elevate, you grow, and then I'm happy to hear that you actually are in a better position, and you can sort of look back, and also use this film as like a vehicle, like a vessel to kind of to understand what you were going through, and you can share that with people.
exactly that.
So moving forward in terms of your future work, obviously you're kind of use a lot of spoken word.
Yeah.
At some point within, let's say, the next film you decide to make, will there be a mix of spoken word and some dialogue, or are you just gonna stay with the spoken word? Because obviously that's so important to you.
Um, I think so with the screening, I think like loads of people didn't show up and they made some really poor excuses about why they didn't show up.
Wait, hold up. When you say people didn't show up, do you mean the people who were critical to this film being made or like were part of this film? Or like, can you go a little bit into what you mean by the people didn't show up?
So like people said they were coming and everything else, they booked their tickets and then yeah, they just didn't show up. And then
Mm,
the ones that didn't show up would send a message, be like, oh hey, I can't make it, because I can't be asked because of the strikes, blah blah blah. But then was like, oh hey, I need you to do work for me, and can you come to my screening? And it was just like,
mm,
okay, where's your awareness? Like, if you're not showing up for this, what makes you think I was just gonna say, oh yeah, cool, whatever, I'll do your work, sort of thing.
mm,
So there was like loads of that.
yeah,
So like, I was so pissed at that,
yeah.
which made me write a script.
Oh,
Like, I was
another
literally,
one.
yeah, I was literally writing a script in my head as the day went on, and it's kind of finished. So I think I need to let out a lot of negative energy, and I think it needs to
Okay.
be in the form of spoken word.
Mm,
So I think I said the next three films will be like spoken word, and then gradually build a dialogue into it. And
mm.
then once I'm in the place of like really loving life and loving myself more and more, that's when I'll do the real projects that I really want to do, where it's the dialogue stuff. But I'm not in that mindset to write that script yet. There's a lot of anger and frustration and stuff like that, but I need to release before I do that.
That
So
is
yeah,
amazing. That is amazing to hear. This again, back to this self-awareness that okay, I'm not in the best space to write this feature film that I've always wanted to, because even producing a short film, that is a lot of work, I can
Yeah.
imagine. I mean, I just starred in it, so I just showed up. That's it. You
Yeah.
had to write it, get the crew, book the studio, blah, blah, blah. So if you're not ready to do that feature film, which is gonna definitely involve blood, sweat, uh, you obviously you hurt yourself. I'm guessing your leg is much better now.
No.
No. Okay.
Still recovering. But I think that's what's fueling me wanting to do new work and just like do smaller projects and just like
Yeah.
myself and just write different things, experiment with different visual ideas. And I think once I've done that and I'm in a place of just like genuine happiness, then
Yeah.
I'll be in a better mindset to write that film. But for now, I'm not, and I don't want to force a script knowing that it's not going to be the true version of myself. And that's how I've been seeing it recently.
I love that. It's a journey. It's a journey.
Yeah,
And thank you for inviting me on the journey.
no problem.
It's honestly, I really cherished it. And I was just like, when you sent me the script, I was like, I know I took some time, I had to like read it just to make sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of
But
course.
but I was happy to be part of it and obviously show up and show out. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, I think that's all we have for the podcast today. Like, I mean, there's so much with every guest I've had on. I feel like I just want to keep talking, but obviously, we're adults. Life is
Yeah.
lifing. Adulting is, as one of my guests said, adulting is ghetto. So, I'm gonna leave you because yeah, I think we talked about what we can today. Maybe there'll be a part two. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know.
Who knows? Who
Who
knows?
knows? But thank you, Rojal,
No
for being on
worries
the
at all.
podcast. I'm so glad that I am able to pronounce your name properly, because for the longest time I thought it was Rojal. So
Yeah, a lot of people thought that.
ah,
So it's all good.
so where can people find you? Like drop your
Yeah,
socials.
you can find me on social media. Rojal J Myers, so ROJAL, then another J Myers, and then one underscore. Yeah, you can find me there.
Yeah, and also check out Who You Loyal To. It's on YouTube. It's on
Yep.
your social, Instagram, everything. So go watch the film. I'm in it. I'm just putting that out there as well. Um, yeah, thank you so much, Rojo. You are a muse, hence Forhermusings podcast. And I look forward to what else you put out there into the universe that is true to you, because you are loyal to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.